So if you look at the school reports, absolutely not. If you looked at me as an individual, which was discounted in the report because lesser consults and mistress did point out that I was a really good guy. But then she went on to say, but there is no exams for being a really good person. So that was
no certificates.
No certificates. So get lost, sling your hook. And so they threw me out at 16. But before they threw me out, for the last 3 years of school, because I wasn't in any classes, I had all the time to myself.
Well, you didn't go to class?
No. Well, I'm not, but maybe I went to these geography one, and for that I ended up with a Scottish certificate in colouring in maps. Because the only exam board I could sit was the Scottish one.
Really?
Yep, and I've still got the certificate.
Oh.
And that was it, and it's geography. But apart from that and sport, rugby and football and cricket, the rest of my time was mine. So I became president of the student union at the school. And
what was the school, Theo?
It doesn't exist anymore. They've demolished it.
Right.
Quite rightly so. And it's called Woodbury Down in Manor House in North London. Although I didn't start there. I started off in a place called Gorton in Manchester. And if the world was going to have an enema, Gorton would be a great place. But anyway, so I actually persuaded them to let me start a tuck shop, because there wasn't a tuck shop.
Right.
So for the final 2 years, I ran the tuck shop, did all the bookkeeping, marketing, accounting. I made an absolute fortune for myself. And but I did come from a very poor family, so really.
Yeah, but how about mum and dad? Did anything
no,
there?
Mum and dad had split up. Mum was a single working mother with 3 kids. We lived in the 5th floor of a tenement block with no lift, and even had a coal chute. Can you imagine a coal chute on the 5th floor?
I'm sure people nowadays are too young to know what a coal chute is.
So in the winter, the ice was on the inside of the window from the condensation. There was those metal frame windows. They probably demolished them all in Scotland now. But there was a wafer thin window. So there wasn't money. There was lots of love,
right?
But there wasn't any money. So if you needed money, you just have to get off your backside and be ingenious, entrepreneurial, and make some.
Right.
I think that was the best lessons I had.
So people here today are pitching for money from these wonderful judges.
Rather you than me.
Yeah. And so how did you go from nothing to getting a few quid? And when did you start?
Oh God, I mean, I've got all day. So I couldn't get a job, basically because I couldn't fill in an application form. That was the difficulty. Every application form I sent in was full of spelling errors and all the problems. And in those days, it was all in black and white. You'd ask for an application form, the company would send you an application form, you'd fill the application form in, you'd put it in the post, and you'd sit there and wait. And I was never disappointed. The envelope would come back, thank you for applying, sling your hook. It was always a rejection. And the government at that time started a scheme where there were so many youngsters unemployed. If you employed a youngster who had not held a paid job before, they gave you 1,500 quid allowance. So I got my first job, guess what the salary was? 1,500 quid a year. And it was at Lloyd's and London Stockbrokers.
All right.
And the job very clearly stated I was assistant and tea boy and did filing and general office duties. I took the job. No form needed to be filled in.
Right.
Bloody brilliant. So I made a brilliant tea. I became really popular, as my headmistress suspected I might be popular. But then again, the problem started after I'd been there a couple of months and we couldn't find a single file in the whole office. Bless their hearts, so they did persevere with me for a year. Right. And in the end, Bernard Camping was the manager. I remember his name. tall man, always wore shiny brogues. You can see his face in his shoes. You know, beautifully tailored, old-fashioned suits. It was Lloyd's of London insurance brokers. It's a moustache. He always had an umbrella and a bowler hat. And he called me into his office and explained to me how brilliantly I'd done there and I was so popular. And he doesn't know how they would cope without me, but they were going to try. All my butterflies were crushed there and then.
Oh.
And it was Mrs. P who saw an advert in the Evening Standard.
So you were married?
No. I met she was the receptionist.
All right.
She's a lot older than me.
She's not.
She is. She took advantage of me. And so I ended up with a girlfriend, basically. No job, but at least I ended up with a girlfriend. And she said, right, get your ass into gear, put yourself together, and she tore out this advert from the Evening Standard, and it said, salesperson required. Watches of Switzerland apply to Mr. D. Jeeves and the telephone number, 1 Old Bond Street. So I rang up. He said, can you come for an interview tomorrow? And I said, it's Saturday. And he said, I do know the days of the week. And I went there, no full weekend, chatting with him, and at the end of it I said, you're going to write to me? He said, why do I have to write to you? Do you not understand? I said, what? He said, when you can start Monday. So I started shopkeeping on that Monday.
Watch the Switzerland?
Watch the Switzerland.
I didn't know that.
And hence I was there recently.
Yeah.
And I've been in touch with him ever since.
Scotsman runs it now, Brian Duffy.
He does. And I was with him last week.
Did a great job.
Week before last. I've been just selling. Sales and retail.
Right.
And I just knew it. From that, the first day I walked into that shop, all of a sudden, all my life I'd struggled to be average in things. And all of a sudden, I was no longer a weed in a garden, but I was a flower in a garden. And I can't tell you how that feels. It was all of a sudden, I could not only keep up with everybody else, but I could actually shine. And there's that confidence that you then get to believe. And I'm a great, great dreamer. And I would say to all of you out there, the day you stop dreaming, jack it in, go and get a job for somebody. You have to dream. Things don't become real unless you dream them. And you need that confidence to be able to believe that your dreams can come true. And that's what that particular job.
So from there, what were you dreaming of, and what happened? What was your first business? Because you'd got a job, but how did you get your first entrepreneurial adventure?
Wow, well, that gave me my confidence to know one, I could sell.
Right.
One, I could actually.
So you were good at it.
I was good at it. I could talk, as you could see, because I was born in Cyprus, in Limassol, so I could talk for Cyprus, but it was too small an island for me, so I needed to talk for a bigger island, so that's what we came here. And I started having the confidence, and after doing 2 years in watches in Switzerland, I sold a bloke a watch. That's exactly what happened. His name was Adam Foku. He then came back, saw me again, and I thought, I think he fancies me. And there's another story behind it.
Yeah, we won't go into that.
And he asked me out for a drink. I definitely fancies me. So I met him for a drink, and he works for an insurance company, and he was selling insurance and mortgages.
So he saw something in you.
Correct.
Right.
And I ended up working for eventually working for Legal and General insurance company, and all of a sudden I'm going from being an insurance assistant very quickly to having a company car. It was a Vauxhall Chevette, rust-coloured, 1.1 engine, L.
That's not too young.
It had a stripe. It went around corners one way, badly, but it was my car. Well, it wasn't mine, it was a company, it's doing better. I got a cheap mortgage. In those days, you got more than an insurance company or a bank. It was a dream job. I was never going to work for an insurance company or a bank because as we discovered, I'm dyslexic. So they were never going to employ me to do a senior role where you got a car and a cheap mortgage. But I could do it in the sales area.
Right.
And that's when I went out to the wild world, learned about finance, learned about mortgages, commercial mortgages. And about 3 years after I'd joined L&G, I had a child, two children, sorry about them. Yeah,
Mrs. Name the numbers.
Yeah, no, it's appalling. Mrs. P said, the minute we got a cheap mortgage, she made me buy a house and give up work. I said, put your ass into gear, get going. I've always wanted to be a mother. And we obviously got married, we had a couple of kids. I was really enjoying what I was doing. I was good with numbers, we were selling. And I left L&G and set up my own finance brokerage. And that's really where I made my first money.
So how did you have the confidence to say, right, I'm going to take, because a lot of people in the audience are, the ones who are pitching have taken that leap. There are others in the audience thinking, well, I want that. So how did you weigh it up? Because when I started, I had nothing to lose. I was staying with my mum and dad. You're married, you've got 2 kids.
A subsidised mortgage, I could never afford in another world.
Well, yeah. But how did you weigh it up to say?
Well, I've got to thank legal generally for this, because I had a subsidised mortgage. I've got to tell you, in those days, interest rates were about 12, 15%. It was horrendous. You would never, ever be able to afford to get a mortgage on my salary if it wasn't for a subsidised mortgage. And I had a company car. So the loss was quite heavy.
Yeah.
But my mortgage and commercial market would be quite large. What a brilliant organisation. When you left, you were allowed to keep your mortgage at a subsidised rate for 1 year.
All right.
If you left as a good leaver, you could leave, you could have your mortgage and a year to refinance.
Okay.
So I knew I had 1 year, make or break. But at the end of that year, I was in the pit. Okay. So I had to buy a car, rented, not leased. This didn't exist in those days. HP. I purchased. So I had to buy a car, and I had to buy the car before I left, or otherwise I wouldn't get the credit. It was all planned. And rented 1 room in the office of one of my clients at the time. That was a wood pulp importer.
Wood pulp?
Yes, wood pulp importer. I mean, it was a room, 2 desks, and that was it.
Yeah. And what did you do?
I made a shitload of money.
That's all right.
Eventually. Obviously, I planned my exit, so it wasn't unplanned. I'd already opened accounts with other insurance companies.
Right.
And actually, less than, again, they gave me an account when I left as well.
L&G?
L&G.
Right.
So even though they maybe shouldn't have done, on the basis that it was too small and start-up, and they were quite, but they did.
And did you need capital, Theo?
I did, but that was a great thing. It was the only job, the only business you could start up, and all you needed was your personal living expenses.
Right.
Because you weren't commissioned either from the insurance company or from the client, from the financing or the insurance policy. And I was quite ingenious in the fact that I liked numbers. I'd already, before I left L&G, set up a scheme which was far too complicated for me to try and explain in one go, because I'm not very good at explaining. But it basically allowed you to borrow money as a property investor, 100%, as long as the tenant was of a reputable standing. Correct.
Right, okay.
And very, very quickly, the year came up. The year came very, very quickly. To my absolute relief, I was in a position to go to the Guardian Building Society, who remortgaged my house for me.
Right.
Because I
so you managed to stay in the same house?
I'd earned enough money.
Right.
That was the industry that I made my money on, my first lot of money.
At those early days, Theo, the cash flow, you understood it from day one. Cash flow was king.
It's all about cash flow. One thing my mother taught me, apart from very painful lessons when I was naughty, my mother, the blessed consult, was not one for taking nonsense.
Okay. We're full of nonsense.
Exactly. But really, you know, a lack of profit in any business it's like a cancer. It kills you slowly. A lack of cash flow is a bloody heart attack. You're dead immediately. The day you can't pay the rent, the finance, the loan, the staff, it's over. But lots of businesses survive for years and years and years without making a penny profit. Amazon, prime example. Lots of business, Sky TV, when they launched, many businesses survive for years and years and years, survive for years and years and years without making a profit. But they've raised enough money to be able to follow the business plan of not making money. Do not start a business thinking everything's going to be bloody brilliant. Because the reality is, it isn't. And if you catch a cold, you don't want to die. 50% of all small businesses fail in the first 2 years.
Supposed to be encouraging people out there.
It's a fact. So you've got to be realistic that if you're starting a business, the key thing is work out your cash flow. Lots of businesses don't make money. And you'd be surprised. I would be surprised, I'm going to start a business and the first year I'm going to make money. You've got to generate cash. If you get that right, you've got half a chance.
So you understood the cash flow right from day one?
The day I left LNG, I'd worked out what I needed to carry on to live in my house with my 2 children and my wife. How much it would cost me to run a car, how much it would cost me to rent an office, to survive, to feed my children, and how long I had. And I won't tell you, Tom, the confidence I had was I could get another job.
So you'd plan B if it all went?
Yeah, I think that was the confidence that I thought I will be able to get another job.
Right.
But I've got to have a go.
And you built yourself in a buffer to give it a go.
Correct.
And it worked. Right, so you're making money there, then what's happening?
God, it's like all my yesterdays. I could walk on water. I was bloody brilliant. Boy, wherever I touched turned into gold. We moved house. I paid the guardian back. I got another mortgage for a semi-detached house from the terrace house with a garage. Yes. I bought Debbie a car. We had 2 cars, so she can take the kids to school without getting wet. Boy, I was on a roll. And it just didn't get any better. We then bought, within 18 months, a detached house.
Right.
Newer cars.
Wow.
Yes, mine, well, one was new, the other was newer.
And this was all from?
Yeah, growing my business.
Right, okay. You're in the same business?
In the same business. I'd taken on a big estate agency partner, but they'd invested in my business.
Right.
And my business moved from sunny Croydon to Manchester Square now. So my office is from a shower, basically, in a wood pulp merchant's office in Croydon to a period office in Manchester Square.
Very nice part of them.
I mean, absolutely. I was so brilliant. I knew I was.
Very modest as well.
And then it went spectacularly wrong.
And
I realised I didn't have feet of clay.
Now this is important because everybody thinks we talk about success. I like to talk about failure. You all know about my failures. Because I think it's so important at failure. So tell us about your failure.
So I'm 30 years old now. Been married with Mrs. P for 12 years. 5 houses on. We didn't hang around. 3 kids. I'm at the top of my game. Thought I could do anything. Lots of confidence. And it came. 1989, 90, the crash.
Right.
I was geared tremendously because I could always make more money by borrowing money. And everybody would lend you money when things were good. And it all went spectacularly wrong. I remember, by this time, we're living that 8-bedroom mansion, all 2 toilets. Right. Indoor swimming pool, tennis court, electric gates. I kept pressing the button. I was excited. Remember, I'd come from a tenement block on the 5th floor. It was just amazing. It was a hell of a journey. I remember driving home.
What age were you, Theo?
30.
30.
Driving home. Got married at 18. Left school 16. Married at 18. Yeah, I was 30 then. Driving home. And did the electric gates, went in. Then was in the kitchen cooking for the kids. And after they'd gone to bed, I said to her, you know we own this house jointly. She said, yes. I said, well, no, jointly with the bank. And she said, yes, but they'd like it back.
Okay.
So she carried on. I mean, she didn't say another word. And when time to go to bed, she said, I was never really happy here anyway. She says, do you know how long it takes to clean all those toilets? And I took from that she was behind me, irrespective of what's going on, and it happened.
So you lost the house?
We lost the house. Actually, in fairness, they gave us some time to sell it, and we did.
Right.
We were very lucky in that market. Nowhere near the price it was worth. But you know what it did give me was enough money to... I got rid of my chauffeur money. So
You're a chauffeur at that day?
Oh, 26 a chauffeur. But, so because I drove myself home, I actually drove myself home because I just laid him off.
Right.
I drove myself home, and I remember his lovely manager, SAS Jim, I still see him, he's getting on a bit now, and he came to help us move.
Oh,
and it left just enough
you'd
money.
paid him off?
Yeah.
That's very nice.
And we just left us, when we sold the house, left us enough money for a deposit on a small house in a near village from where we live. I remember as my Iron Jim turned up in the van, big van, he said, boss, it's a bloody doll's house. I said, you say one word when Debbie's here like that. I said, you might be next SAS, I'm going to banjo you with this frying pan. Just tell it it's bloody lovely. And it was. And the guy who bought the house from didn't want the carpets, didn't want the curtains, which is great because in fact we used 2 rooms, dining room, and the dining room and the drawing room of the house we sold was enough carpet to do the whole house that we moved to.
Right, so you've gone from there to there.
Yeah, I did a payment plan with Lloyd's Bank of the money, the rest of the money I owed them on a monthly basis.
Were you personally liable?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you hadn't protected an affluent company or
paid every single penny back.
you borrowed personally?
And the monthly payment plan, and it left me with about £40,000 of walking the street money. So I took the biggest mortgage I could,
Right.
and that left them 40,000 quid and not a job. And lots of experience, lots of pain, and a desire to show that I wasn't an idiot.
Right. So what's next?
And keep food on my table. Well, I invested in a small sports marketing business,
Right.
specialising in rugby and football, which were successful, and we went on to sell that for many millions of pounds. Alongside that, so that was, I think I invested £30,000 in that.
Right.
So I still had 10 grand. Then I invested in the mobile phone business.
What's the year?
We are 92.
Right.
92. Mobile phone business. It was like the Wild West mobile phones in those days. I mean, the big bricks or car phone, and it was mainly sold through car dealers, ex-car dealers. And people, you have to go and find a place to go and buy a phone. It was a lengthy exercise. And then from, did very well with that, opened shops with that.
All right. What was it trading as?
NAG 10, NAG Telecom.
NAG Telecom.
NAG Telecom. And invested in that, and I was back in the game. Because both businesses were making money, generating cash, and I did a deal with a stationery business called Ryman to open concessions in some of their stores, especially in central London, because the rents in central London were so expensive. And I saw this sleepy stationer, you know, with all this space, and I thought, shit, I could just have a desk with one person in their stores.
It's funny you found concessions, because I found denim shops, jean shops that would sell trainers, because I couldn't afford my own shop. I thought I had invented that model, but obviously it was you.
Well, did I copy it off you? Did you copy it off me?
Yeah, I copied it off you.
Oh my God, I then realised actually I could walk on water. I was bloody brilliant again.
How many toilets in the house now?
Okay, so some things do change. Right? So this time, when I thought I was bloody brilliant, and I said to Mrs. P, I'm bloody brilliant again, she said, that's really nice for you, but I'm moving. I said, well, we can afford to move, she said. Happy to build an extension, because there was a bit of space at either side of the house.
Right.
I am not moving. So the doll's house had two side extensions, a height extension and a back extension. We doubled the size of the doll's house. And I've got to tell you, we lived there for 15 years.
Wow.
She would not move, irrespective.
It's obviously the brains of
Yeah, exactly. She realised she realised that I hadn't realised I wasn't as brilliant as I thought I was. Someone realised it. To give us some time to think about it while I was being brilliant. And I got a phone call. Ryman was going into receivership. So the backbone of what I built this mobile phone business on, with about 25 outlets, was about to close down. They were part of a bigger company called Pentos that used to own Athena and Dylan's the bookshops.
Remember Athena posters?
And then I realised my business plan was really brilliant, just like me, except I'd forgotten one thing. And I wouldn't mind, but I'd tied them into a contract, first option on renewal, and everything. And hadn't covered the fact that they could go bust.
Right.
And they were keen to sign these contracts because I was giving them money, which they desperately needed. So all hell let loose, and got into administration, and the sports business was doing really well still, and the mobile phone business was doing well, but we were just about to lose practically all our income. And that's when I thought, I'm going to have a go at this. I'm going to have a go at buying the business from the receiver. I know nothing about stationery, but I do know about shopkeeping. I did it for 2 years, and I loved it. I'm going to have a go. But then realised that I didn't have enough money.
Right.
And in those days, so we're talking now mid-90s, Still people weren't lending money. The banks idea of dealing with that particular crisis was a great lesson to the banks. And those of you in banking here will remember the way of dealing with the problem of people defaulting was just to go and repossess everybody, cause a property crash, which then snowballed instead of trying to work it through. Yeah, so the banks weren't lending. So that's when I put my best suit on when my next lesson in life, to go and see the VCs, the private equity boys,
right,
and try and borrow.
To get them to back you.
I needed 7 million quid to get it off the receiver, and I had 1 of it.
Right. Okay.
So I was short 6, and I just put those pin extensions. And I had enough. She was right. About a few hundred more. And that was an incredible experience, and that's going around. I think again, it was back to those rejections when I first left school. And I remember there was one called Dewsbury Capital that I went to see. I don't know if you've heard of these ones. I keep mentioning that one because I did my pitch and everything else. And the guys go, brilliant, brilliant. Don't you buying this? I'm in. And he says, do you mind just staying here? I just need to come chat with one of my partners. I'm in. They kept me there for 3 hours. So it was urgent. The deal had to be done urgently from the receiver. And he came back. He says, right. He said, they brought your partners in and went through it. He says, subject to a bit more due diligence. He said, I think you know. I thought, this is amazing. He said, obviously we would have got a management team in. Sorry? He said, well, we can't let you run it. They went to all the right schools. They were all ex-public school. I spoke with a Cockney accent, and I didn't fit their view of what was required. I said, that's brilliant. So you're going to be a management team? I said, yes. I said, and what about me? He said, well, we'll obviously allow you to participate.
It's very kind.
Excellent. I said, do you mind just waiting here? And they said, yeah. I took my jacket and my bag. I said, just up there. Just went out the front door.
They're still waiting.
I left them. Well, what a bunch of numpties. Anyway, eventually, I found a bank that had more faith in me.
Any tips for people dealing with private equity? Apart from West Coast Capital, obviously.
who were absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Always a lot brilliant than I had been. Listen, at the end of the day, it's horses for courses. And the key thing about doing anything in life, in business, Tom broached it as his first point. It's about making sure you've got enough cash. And if it means sometimes having a slightly smaller part of the cake, but it's a bigger cake, and making sure you can be successful because you've got enough cash. But if you find the right partner, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I'd rather have a smaller percentage of a much bigger successful proposition than a bigger percentage of something that might not work, or if I catch a cold, I'll fall down. But it's about finding the right partners, and private equity is giving itself a bad name, as you know. But it's like any other industry. There's good, there's bad, and there's the ugly.
Sure.
And then that's the point. So
you've got to do your homework.
You've got to do your homework, nothing else.
And then I would say speak to, if you're thinking of taking it, speak to other entrepreneurs who have taken from that VC or private equity house, because they'll tell you the warts and all from that. How much time have we got?
7 minutes.
7 minutes left. I don't think let's get started.
We haven't covered the rest of it yet. There was other times when I wasn't brilliant. You're surprised to hear.
So, right, we've got to speed up, Theo, because goodness, you're still a young man at this point. Right, so, how did you end up to own Ryman then? Did you own Ryman then, or did that?
No, so I actually got the money from a bank, and it was a bank, a foreign bank, that took an option, and the deal I've done with them was, because again, I negotiated it. They were quasi-private equity.
Right.
So the deal was very simple. They would let me, I put the £1 million in, I guarantee £1 million. Personal.
No problem with that? Mrs. P?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't quite tell her at the time. I guarantee £1 million, and I knew over that, and I said to them after that, if I sold everything I had, I wouldn't be able to pay you anyway, so there's no point taking a guarantee on all of it, because you're not going to get it, so it's pointless. So I was worth £1 million. Put £1 million and they left 5. And for that, we did a deal, because I did all the cash flows, and it showed very, very clearly that if I bought this business, I could afford to repay 50% in the first 12 months back. Right?
Okay.
So I would be owing £3 million, which they would put on a longer term loan for 3 years. And the deal was, if I paid the 50% back, they would not exercise their option.
Right. That's good.
And they were taking 30% of the business.
Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I never thought they'd agree to it, because I thought it was, I couldn't believe they thought, so if it's successful, they don't get anything other than money back and some interest, some fees. If it's unsuccessful, they get a headache.
Sounds good to me.
Anyway, so we did a deal. They got their 50% back within 9 months, well early. And in fact, they kept the loan themselves with me all the time until I paid it off.
Right.
No issue whatsoever. We became good friends. In fact, I bought them some other stuff together with some other stuff.
And Ryman's over 200 stores now?
And Ryman, we had 80 stores at the time. We got 200 stores. We then went on. I bought another business called Contessa, which is a lingerie business. There's a great tale about that. Mrs. B did hit me with a frying pan. I was much maligned. I missed Father's Day. I didn't go home. And I hadn't rung her properly. And I got home after not going home all night. Turned up in the morning. She said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I was doing a deal. I bought a lingerie company." And she was cooking. She took a frying pan. You think I'm going to believe that? That was called.
It's true.
It's true. It was called Contessa. Then I bought another laundry company called Stenza.
You make it sound very easy, and I know we don't have much time.
I've got total 7 minutes.
I know, but you know.
I'm not going to
we
go
can break the
Ignore
rules.
me either.
We can break the rules, Liam. So how were you analysing these deals? What did you look for?
Okay, you just, I mean, obviously you are brilliant.
Obviously.
Then you start hitting off the first thing that really has started off.
Cash
Cash flow. The first thing was, if I bought these businesses, what could I generate in cash flow? Because that would allow me to invest in a business. There were troubled businesses. Contessa was a troubled business. It came out of a busted group called Fascia.
Fascia?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hinchcliffe.
Stephen Hinchcliffe.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
So that was from the receiver. And again, managed to fix that. So Ron was from the receiver. We fixed that. We fixed Contessa out the receiver. By that time, I'd got a bit of a name for myself for fixing things that were broke.
So they all came to you with you.
Exactly. And then the Senza was the next one. That was a public company, and I took it went bust. I took it privately, and we did really well with that one. So bought it for a couple of £2 in a packet of Benson Hedges, or £1, 2 packs of Benson Hedges. It was something like that. But then I had to buy the minority shareholders out for money as a deferred consideration.
Okay, deferred consideration.
And made a big success. That was sold that for, so it really did cost a couple of pounds of fact eventually, and we sold it for 180 million.
Okay.
So in just a few years.
Nice return.
It was a very nice deal. So did that. Bought another retail business called Robert Dyer's, which is a southern ironmongery shop. There's not up, but I'm saying not up north. There's actually not one north of Watford. That's about 92 stores. So really, my modus operandi at that stage was finding businesses that were troubled and evaluating the potential of that business.
Now you've got over 300, 400 stores on the British High Street today. What do you think about, I mean, I'm an old shopkeeper with no shops. You're an old shopkeeper with shops.
I'd like to be a shopkeeper with no shops right now.
So what do you think, I mean, this is a personal question, what do you think about the High Street?
I suppose about the high street, Tom, I mean, we've got major structural issues in our economy and what's happening at the moment,
Caused by far too many things that we haven't got time to discuss at the moment. We've got various structural issues, and they're involved around the structural issue of our taxation, which does not work, it's not fit for purpose.
The business rates.
Business rates, mainly. The way that the government collect tax, it's structurally bankrupt, it's broken, it doesn't work.
Here.
Well, you've got two types of retail at the moment. You've got online retail and you've got physical retail. So the online retail is growing at the rate of knots. The physical retail is contracting. These are facts. The government derive all their income on retail business rates from the physical. As a physical contracts, they increase the amount they collect. They ask for a bigger amount or percentage to keep the amount they collect the same. So as it contracts, they put the rate up to keep collecting the money. The part of the cake that's growing, they decide they're not going to tax at all. So all they're doing is exasperating another structural issue, which is the way the customer is becoming promiscuous.
Right.
When I was a kid in retail, the first thing they told me was, don't try and change the consumer's habits, it's too expensive, give them what they want. But now, because they don't change, that's why Marks and Spencer survived all those years. People always bought their smalls from Marks and Spencer's. But the fact is now, consumers are promiscuous. They chase the price. They're easily convinced to do something else or buy from someone else. Because technology has created the ability, and once they've bought the technology drug, who you buy your product from is now no longer as an important issue. Right. And the fact is, people are becoming time poor. So I don't blame them. I use Amazon. I was in the gym yesterday. I bought God knows how many things from them. I hate them. So basically,
I'm sorry I asked this question.
So we've got big structural issues. Structural issues in the world of retail, and structural issues in the way that government collect their taxation. The government tax system has not kept up with technology, and has not kept up with the developing world that we live in.
Never changing world.
Exactly. So they are so far behind. I mean, it was from the business rates came from the 1500s. That's how old it is. It wasn't the old internet in those days. Right? So it's a tax that's not fit for purpose, which is absolutely destroyed. I've got stores where I'm paying more rates than I'm paying ring rent.
Right.
So I can negotiate with the landlord. Then I can say to the landlord, hey, Mr. Landlord, my lease is run out, I'm leaving. And he says, don't you dare. I said, I can't afford to pay the rent. So what can you afford to pay? I can afford to pay half. Sign another lease. Because he doesn't want an empty shop.
Sure.
Or she doesn't want an empty shop.
Because he then got to pay the rent.
He's got to pay the rent. Well, Mr. Rates says, if you don't pay the rates, I can put the bailiffs in.
Yeah.
So we have many shops where we pay more rates than we pay rent. And we've got shops, wait for it, that we pay no rent and just pay the rates. Now, that's the world we're living in.
Okay. So something's got to change.
So where you can negotiate with the landlord, you can. But where you've got fixed leases, it's very difficult. Something's got to change. And the government, wherever the government is that takes power in less than a couple of weeks' time, needs to address it and not shy away from it. Because they're exasperating the issue we have in the high street.
Okay. So you're having to work a lot harder as a shopkeeper for this ever-changing world. Keep reimagining your business, but there's these burdens which are not in your
The
control,
structure.
which they need to.
And when you've got structural issues, there are only so many things you can do with structural issues. Dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of things, because you invited me down last year to Birmingham to your SBS, and I thought it was brilliant. You just want to tell the guys about SBS so they can get involved?
Well, it's very, very simple. It's hashtag SBS, Small Business Sunday. It started just under 10 years ago. We were at 10th annual conference coming up this February in Birmingham. It started just under 10 years ago. It started at Mrs. Kitchen.
Mrs. P.
That's her. Mrs. P's kitchen table. It was on a Sunday, and I just discovered Twitter, and she wasn't talking to me. So I was sitting there thinking, this is brilliant, this Twitter thing, Rajiv. I'm saying this, I'm talking this, she's not talking back. I'm in the kitchen, and the kids had gone to bed. It was something like, I went out of small business, and I started off on my own finance broker in insurance. You know, Sunday night was, kids go to bed, and put the kids to bed. When I put the kids to bed, that's it. I need to prepare for Monday morning. I didn't want to start Monday morning without, without my feet on the ground and absolutely rocketing. And turning up to the office wondering what I'm going to do. I prepare Sunday night what I was going to do for the rest of the week and hit the ground running. So for me, that was when I was switched into work mode. And I thought, this is brilliant. I used to have to start out there looking for customers, looking for clients, looking for business. And I can tweet now, and people are tweeting me back. I don't need to do any marketing. This is good. Now, and I was on Dragon's Den then as well. So I tweeted, and then all of a sudden I got like 1,000 tweets back. Before I know it, I've got like 50,000 followers in a day. Now, this is brilliant. Imagine if I was looking for business. This is a great tool.
Yep.
We're all the small businesses that are out there looking for business. What would they give for 50,000 contacts that some might want to buy their product? Exposure to those 50,000 contacts. So that's exactly what I did. On a Sunday night, I said, guys, if you send me your, just one line about your business, I'll retweet it. And just put hashtag, I thought, Small Business Sunday, SBS, hashtag SBS, and I will retweet it, thinking I was going to get like 5 tweets. Oh my God. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It took me all night with a piece of paper trying to work this Twitter thing out, right? And to do it was a nightmare. And the following Sunday, I had no intention of doing it. There's all these bloody tweets started coming through. Oh God, I said to this people, you're not going to handle this. So which one should we pick? I said, I don't know anyone. I said, pick one that you like. So we started tweeting 6. We couldn't tweet more than 6. So I said, look, I'm only going to retweet 6. So from that day onwards, every Sunday, and it's Christmas Day, people tweet me on my account. I've got about 500,000 followers at the moment. And I've got hashtag SBS, submit a brief few lines about their business, and then I retweet 6. It used to be on a Sunday night, but because there's thousands of them now, it's done on a Monday because I have to get extra help. So on a Monday, a couple of girls in the office go through it, shortlist it for me, and let me have a quick look at it, and we retweet 6 back. Now for that, they get access to a small hashtag SBS website, where it's got loads of business tips, business ideas. It's basically a community. Once you get your login, you get a welcome pack. It gives them 50 quid of stationery, lots of other things, offers, and all bits and pieces from our sponsors. By the way, this is all free. The whole point of it was we don't charge a penny. It doesn't cost them a penny. So they also get a whole lot of PR advice. They get press releases, a suite of press releases. So the minute and what they should be doing. So the minute they win, they can pull out one of those press releases. There's all the addresses of all the media houses to send it to. So all the email addresses. And they can fill in the press release, change it to a little bit about their business, and woe betide, the following week, what the story in their local newspaper that says cat stuck up on tree goes out the window on the front page, and local businesswoman gets chosen by Dragon in recognition of their business.
I think you're going to get a few more of this one.
So what it does, and it's up to them. We always say it's not going to make your business. It's up to you how much you use it. And there's a networking forum, and we have a big conference in Birmingham every year. We get Tom very kindly came and talk brilliantly at last year's conference. And now we've got 2,500 businesses, small businesses in the community, and 800 of those actually turned up for the conference.
It's amazing, Dave.
800. And we had lots of workshops for them, lots of people to meet, us talkers that we thought, speakers that we thought might be of interest to them. And it's a great event. It's a free event for them. They only have to register because of who they are.
You can be Scottish and do it?
Pardon?
You can be Scottish?
We've got a chapter in Scotland.
A chapter?
Yes, it's an SBS chapter in Scotland. Just look it up.
There you go, this Sunday.
And you send a tweet, and it gives marketing, gives publicity, gives help.
Right, one last question. One last question.
No sexual emotional problems, though.
Anyway.
You obviously know him.
It is, Theo, it's December the 13th.
No, it's not.
You've woke up and you're Prime Minister. What are your 3 big policy initiatives?
Bloody hell. Well, I'll think about
In the
it.
next 30 seconds.
I mean, the first thing I would do, I would conscript all MPs to night school for them to get a certificate on telling the truth.
Okay.
I think that is a bloody must, because this, doesn't matter what party you're from. I mean, in all my life, I have, in all the elections I've lived through, and I'm in my 60s now, and I don't look it. And, you know, I have never seen such an election where dishonesty is now, or disingenuous people are saying things that they know are untrue. And it seems to be okay to say, as long as you can twist the word. It's frightening. It is frightening because you're praying to God that when they get into power, by hook or by crook, because they're seeing, you know, the means justifies the end, that they actually go back to doing the right thing for the country, whoever gets into power, because it is important. We're in a very, very difficult, in all my working life, I think for me, the dangers that are out there at the moment are probably the worst in all my working history, both economically and politically, and in safety of our children and our grandchildren. So,
okay.
For me, it's important that they treat the country correctly. The economy, the second thing I would do is try and bring the country together. Divisiveness can never work in a country. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I'm resident here. I pay my taxes here. My children live here. I think this country has been fantastic for me and has welcomed me with open arms. And I just think it should continue that way in being an inclusive country. Well, it is the greatest country in the world. I think that must not be forgotten. and the moral fibre and the fabric of how we've grown up. I think lastly, for me, is social responsibility. I'm frightened. I'm frightened that social responsibility seems now not to be a dirty word. And that's not in some sectors of the powers. Doesn't seem to have any weight or value to it.
Okay, so Theo for Prime Minister then, I think.